Shabbat Shalom, God's footprints. There's a famous story in many religions of a man who has a dream that he's walking on the beach with God. As he looks behind him, he sees scenes from his life, and he also notices that behind him sometimes there are two sets of footprints in the sand, and sometimes there's only one. And then he notices that when the scenes of his life show the lowest, the saddest points in his life, it corresponds to when there's only one set of footprints. Dismayed, he asked God, "Why did you abandon me during the most difficult times in my life?" And God replies, "My precious child, I love you and I would never leave you. During the times of trials and suffering, when you saw only one set of footprints, that's when I carried you." The Hasidic master Rabbi Mordechai of Chernobyl sees this teaching in this week's Parshat. Chapter 39 verse 2 says, "And it was that God was with Yosef, and it was that Yosef was successful, and it was that Yosef served in the house of his Egyptian master." Rabbi Mordechai teaches that we have this threefold repetition of the phrase Vayehi, and it was to show that God is always with us. God is with us in the good times, like when Yosef was successful, and God is with us in the bad times as well, like when Yosef was a slave. This is part of God's greatness. Part of Yosef's greatness is that he recognized it, that God was with him in his successes, helping him along, and that God was also with him in his trials, helping to support and sustain him. God may not always give us what we want. The answer to our prayers may not always be yes, but God is always there, especially when we need God the most. I look forward to seeing you this Shabbat at TRZ. Friday night services are at 6 p.m. early, no 7:30 services, and we'll be celebrating the Kita Hey and Vav Chas Shabbat, and Saturday morning at 9 a.m. for Kolot. Shabbat Shalom.